Airglue Media and the Cantina Cast are proud to present Mando Monday. Hello and welcome to Mando Monday. I am your host, Mike Rondo, and I hope all is going well for you on this Mando Monday, wherever you are, however you're listening to this. I thank you. So we got a little bit of cleanup on last episode, and I got to apologize first because last episode I was a bit flat on that episode. I don't know why. I think because I've been co-hosting on the Cantina Cast. Maybe I was a little burnt out. I'm not sure, but I apologize for that. Also, Albert seemed to have cleared up something on 301 with me on the Cantina Cast, and that's with the signet. Apparently, the signet is something that's revealed to the character that becomes his emblem or his logo or his symbol or whatever you may be. So I suggest go listen to 301 where Albert kind of explains that to me. It makes much more sense now. So that's kind of been cleared up. And lastly, let's just talk about that my prediction with leaving Baby Yoda on this planet almost came true in the village, but that was not to be. So let's get into the episode description. The Mandalorian teams up with an ex-soldier to protect the villages from raiders, which, yes, obviously that did happen. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, the good is a pretty good list. I got about 10 things here. These will be a bit random. Not in any specific order, so that goes with the whole list, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the bond between the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda continues to grow, and it's continuing to be charming and sweet and funny. The Mandalorian immediately, this also I liked, was the Mandalorian when they walk into the restaurant, bar, market, whatever it is, he immediately recognizes that there's a threat and he investigates it, which I thought was pretty cool. Because sometimes you see in like the Clone Wars, they kind of pass over a villain or someone that's going to cause them trouble, and when they in these kinds of scenes, and they just kind of do their thing, and you're like, oh well, duh, if you'd paid attention you would have seen this person or species or whatever. So anyway, the other thing I liked was the server at the bar. I thought she was great interaction with the Mandalorian, and I hope we get to see her at some point again in the season, which I imagine we will. It was just a good interaction, and I like that. And of course, Gina Carano was a great surprise. I loved her since Deadpool as Angel Dust, and it was great to see her finally get more lines and more action than she did in that movie. So that was great. It's nice to see her evolving as an actress. That was really good. And then, of course, the motif of the hunter becoming the hunted, the vicious cycle that goes on. First we see the krill being farmed and hunted, and then we see the villagers being hunted, and then we go to Cara Dune and the Mandalorian hunting the raiders. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is actually a very classic Western samurai movie, Saturday morning cartoon feel. That motif of helping out the villagers that go against these bad guys or whatever. It made me think of He-Man, actually, which was rather fun, because all those He-Man cartoons that I saw, of course I'm dating myself, back in the day, this was a continued theme that you would see. Also, the Return of the Jedi callbacks. This whole episode was very Return of the Jedi feel. Of course, the village is kind of representing the Ewoks, the forests, and all that, the AT-ST and stuff. And, of course, the huts, the Ralph McQuarrie huts that look very similar to those paintings that Ralph McQuarrie did. And I think you get to see this in Battlefront 2, I believe, when you're on Endor. You see these types of huts. So I thought that was really good. Of course, Daddy Mando going through the child touching everything and not listening. That is something I'm currently going through with my own daughter. So that was rather funny. Let's see. And I like the bounty hunter found him. It reminded me of, it's not going to be easy. The bounty hunter that was in the forest that ended up finding Baby Yoda. Excuse me, I fumbled my words there. Because that whole episode, you get the feeling, oh, okay, this is going to be, it's a nice ending, and this is where we're going to leave off and stuff. You kind of forget that there's fobs and everything. And, of course, then the bounty hunter comes and reminds us, oh, okay, it's not going to be that easy. So the other thing I thought was funny, how could he not help the brewers? I mean, they brew alcohol, man. How could you not help them? But I like that he's thinking of the money. He's like, no, I'm not going to help you because of this. But then again, he adapts to the situation as soon as he finds out that they have lodgings and they can be, kind of provide him cover and the baby cover. And he kind of adapts with the situation. He's not kind of, just glossing it over, which he could have. He could have just said, I need to get, payment. So, but he says, all right, well, it's a form of payment where he gets the lodging. So as he says to Cara Dune, it's a pretty good deal for the two of them. The bad news scene I thought was very funny. I thought it was very cool that he was very blunt and honest, and then Cara trying to be more sensitive and then blowing up in her face, which I thought was pretty funny as well. And I like the ATST didn't fall in right away. It had to be taken out. It wasn't as simple as everyone thought it was going to be. They had to actually, strategize and not just, because initially I thought, oh, this is going to be a simple, take out the ATST and we move on. So anyway, let's get into the bad. And it's not too, this bad is not, it's kind of nitpicking, but the previously intro needs to go. I think that just, it's not needed. I don't know. Maybe you guys feel differently. You should let me know in our Discord channel. The helmet situation is another one where I need some more clarification, and I think it's going to happen at some point. Is this rule for the particular clan that the Mandalorians are part of, where they all have to be in hiding and everything? Because I assume Sabine is alive and well at this point, and she's still a Mandalorian. I can't see her not being one, but maybe because she's hunting down Ezra, maybe she doesn't know of all this that happens. Because remember, this is 7 years after the Battle of Endor and everything. So, and she went off with Ahsoka to go find Ezra. So I don't know. It's a little bit interesting. So, but more on that later on. The other bad was this a filler episode? Because it kind of feels like that. But then again, I think it was a lot of setup for later in this season. And I'll get into more of that with the speculation and maybe even beyond, because I have a feeling we're going to come back to this village at some point. How did the Klatooinian raiders not see his ship? Because the villagers saw his ship. You would imagine the Klatooinians weren't too far from the village, so why didn't they see his ship? I thought we were going to get another Jawa raids his ship and takes all his parts type thing again, and thankfully that didn't happen. And the other thing that was a directorial thing that seemed odd to me at first, and you got to keep in mind this was Friday morning at 3 a.m. when I woke up after Thanksgiving, and was the market, restaurant, bar thing seemed to kind of come out of nowhere when I first watched it on my first viewing. However, when you notice later on, my third viewing, when Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian are walking towards wherever they're walking, you see the marketplace right there in the distance. So it's something you got to see. I missed it the first time. Let's see. The other thing was the Mando tells Cara that, they raised hell a few weeks back, and they probably need a new place to, go, because, it's going to attract attention. But yet he was going to leave Baby Yoda there. And it's like, well, if you just created attention, you're leaving the child there. How is that going to work? Of course, I know they train them to fight and everything, but I don't know. Especially with the fob things. You imagine the Mandalorian knows those fobs are still going to keep tracking him, which was what happened when he was on that other planet. I forget the name of the planet, where we first get the child and everything with IG-11. So, he's got to be thinking that the child's still going to be in danger. So this is a bit of a plot hole, I think. I'm not sure. But let's get into the ugly, because speaking of the fobs, I know I sound like a broken record, but the fobs are the biggest issue with me so far. Now, I think this is going to be explained because of this episode and how it ended. So, that's a good thing. The other thing, the ugly is this slowly turning him into becoming a good guy and joining a band of rebels and resistance fighters as we go on in the series? I'm still concerned about that. That was my number one thing going into this season is things kind of, as we've watched these 4 chapters, is him joining another group and kind of, following that typical trope that's in Star Wars where band of misfits gets together and takes on the evildoers, so to speak. So I hope that doesn't happen. I could be wrong. I don't mind him doing it every now and then and kind of helping out and stuff, but I want to see the mercenary, the bounty hunter, that guy that just wants to get paid too as well. And we see hints of that as well. So it's not all bad. Again, I'm nitpicking. All right, so let's get into the Mandalorian lore and the Easter eggs. It's more Easter egg-ish this episode. It's not so much the Mandalorian lore. We saw Boss's rifle, the Relby V10, which is something I used in Battlefront 2 all the time. I love that rifle, and it's nice to see the Widower used it pretty well, too. Again, the Ralph McQuarrie huts I thought were a nice nod and a nice touch, and it actually was nice to see it pop out on live action. I imagine those were CGI'd, but it was still nice to see it come to life, so to speak, and not just a Ralph McQuarrie picture. The Lothal cat, I thought they pulled that off very well, because that could have been really silly and stupid, but that went very well, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had a smile on my face when I saw it, and I'm not a big fan of the Lothal cat and the Lothal wolf and everything like that. I kind of thought it was a little cheesy in Rebels, but it did very well here. I was pleasantly surprised, and Dave must have been smiling when he had that put in. More Predator Vision was another Easter egg. I can't get enough of that. So if they keep doing that, I'll be fine all season. I won't have a problem with it. The other thing that I thought was an Easter egg, obviously, was Kara mopping up the ex-imps on Endor. More callbacks to the Return of the Jedi. It seems like the New Republic was a little shady, doing some shady things or whatnot. So I'm interested to see how that develops later on down the line with Kara. Hopefully we get more of that. So again, and of course, we got the Jurassic World connection, Bryce Dallas Howard, who did a very good job of directing this episode. I thought the ATST Red Eyes thing was done very well. I loved that. I thought it was great. Very monster movie type, and of course Jurassic Park was awesome. And another thing she did very well was the shots of the looking up at the sky all the time. Made me think of Return of the Jedi, where we were in the Ewok village and we look up, you see the Death Star, you look up, you see it blowing up, or you look up and you see the fireworks and everything. That I thought was cool seeing. So she did a very good job. I'm very excited about all these directors that we have in this series here. And I look forward to them continuing to be part of the Star Wars story and everything else, where it be movies or more shows or something like that. So I think we got a nice core group of people that love Star Wars, that love telling the story. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else we got going on down the pipe here. We got more Mandalore lore on the helmets, so to speak, and I kind of touched on that already. We get the background. He wasn't born. We finally got this, pointed out to us. We all speculated this, that he wasn't a Mandalorian. So wherever that battle takes place where he gets rescued or whatever, that's obviously not Mandalore, but he gets taken in by them, which is pretty cool. So it's good to get that confirmation that he wasn't born a Mandalorian, which we kind of assumed because he said I was a foundling and all that other stuff. So we get a little more clarification on removal of his helmets. When he removes the helmet, he can no longer be a Mandalorian, so to speak. So does this only apply to the foundlings, or what if you were born a Mandalorian like Sabine? If she removes the helmets, maybe they get to remove the helmets because they're true Mandalorians, so to speak, so they don't have an issue with that. I'm not sure how this all works. Again, I think we'll get answers to this just probably by the end of the season, or maybe even season 2. I'm not sure. Is this really a hang-up that I should be worried about? I don't know. What do you guys think? So the other thing I thought was really cool was using the term Imperial Walker, which is what I actually call ATSTs and AT-ATs. I don't really give the abbreviated distinction for them. I like calling them Imperial Walkers. Of course, that changes when we get into the First Order, doesn't it? So I don't know. I thought it was a really nice nod. There was a good blend of all terms, so that was awesome. All right, so let's get into the character intel here. Now, the Mandalorian... not too much with him. The thing I keep picking up with him is the adaptation to situations. I don't think he's necessarily helping out the villages for the sake of helping them out and having a good side. I think it's more of I need to drop this kid off and I have to do what I have to do so I can move on and just get my payday, so to speak. Now, granted, the widower kind of pulls at his heartstrings and the peacefulness of things, so I guess he kind of sees it as a way out for him as well. But I guess because of the widower and the child, of course, Baby Yoda, he sees it as a perfect situation for him. So he's going to do what he can do to make it a safe thing. So that's pretty much what I got. I love that he adapts to the situation. Again, when he was talking to the other villagers where they were willing to pay him, and he's like, well, it's not enough, blah, blah, blah. But yet when he finds out about them having lodging and being far away from just about everybody, at least a day's travel or so, I like that he just says, he doesn't brush it off. He's like, all right, I'm going to adapt to the situation. So I think that's what you want in a bounty hunter, right? One that adapts, and especially a Mandalorian. So let's get into Cara Dune. I was pleasantly surprised by her character. She's a great female character, and I loved her interactions with the Mandalorian. And we're going to see her again because the way they ended that until our paths cross again, you can tell that. Not only that, they work very well together, very in sync for people who just met each other. I enjoyed that. So hopefully we get to see more of that. I imagine sometime maybe episode 7 or 8, I think we'll run into her. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope we do anyway. Amara, or the widower, was a very interesting character. Actually, more so than Cara. although we got more action with Kara and stuff, and we saw more of her character, Omara, she didn't say too much, but what she said was important and how she interacted with the Mandalorian. And of course, I'm intrigued because I'm wondering what her background is. Obviously, she's a widower, but was she a rebel at one point? Because she knows how to shoot. Was she a Mandalorian? Because when she's talking to the Mandalorian, it seems like there's a bit of a kinship, and she kind of understands how it all works. Like, it seems she's had some sort of training. I wouldn't be surprised if when they go back to the village and he talks to her and Omara says, well, here's my armor and here's what happened with me or something like that. That would be pretty cool to see. All right, so let's get into the speculation. Now, my big speculation going forward is the fob situation. I think we'll get this explained because in order to free Baby Yoda from the relentless bounties on him, the Mando's going to have to find a way to solve this problem. And it reminded me of like Anakin and Shmi when they have the little transistors or whatever that's in them. If they try to get away, they'll blow you up. So I imagine it's something like that. So I think this is a good way to explain the whole situation with the fobs for us, and we can kind of get an idea. So I think he meets up with Greef and kind of works this out somehow. Because remember, we see in the trailer, I could be completely wrong, this is just speculation, obviously, where he lands and Greef is kind of smirking. And then, of course, I think the shot of the Mando kind of had his hand doing the shootout, it might be with Greef. I could be wrong. So we shall see. So that's my big speculation going forward, is that we'll actually get some kind of explanation of the fobs and how they work and stuff, because my biggest gripe with that is, well, does this take away from the ability of bounty hunters to be cunning in their tracking and hunting people down? And why didn't Boba Fett use these? And why didn't they use this on Luke Skywalker and all that? So I think they have to resolve this and the helmet situation as well. But I'm more concerned with the fob thing than the helmet thing at this point. I like the little bit of mystery that we get with the Mandalorian lore. Like we peel it off in a little bit of layers, and through the weeks we kind of get a little bit more and a little bit more. And I'm surprised we didn't get a flashback here. I thought that this must be the armorer thing, right? Like we only get flashbacks with the armorer, so I imagine we're going to see her soon. There's been a promo shot where the armorer is surrounded by troopers and stuff, so I think we're going to see a little bit more of that coming forward. I hope so, anyway, because I like the armorer's character as well. All right, so that's going to do it for this week of Mando Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully I wasn't too flat and my thoughts weren't too scatterbrained, but make sure to check out Albert and Jonesy as in episode 302, because they're going to go over the Sanctuary episode as well, or chapter, if you will, give their take. And I hope you guys will join me on Discord and our Mando Monday chat, where we discuss all things spoilers or whatnot about The Mandalorian, and we're having great discussions going on there. So I hope you guys all join us and have some fun with that. So anyway, till next week, everybody, I will see you guys later on. This podcast is not endorsed or affiliated with Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Disney, or Disney Plus, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names, sound, music, and any other copyrighted material are held by their respective trademarks and copyright holders in the U.S. and abroad. I have spoken.